I got to go to another story that's not necessarily positive, though. And we got a little bit more on Michael Thomas later in the day yesterday. High ankle sprain was the early prognosis, and Thomas thought that he could play through it, extra day to get ready for the Monday night game against the Raiders. But later in the day, it's going to be weeks. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I want you to kind of go a little bit further into what happens when you try to play through a high ankle sprain, because it seems like from the outside looking in that anybody that tries to play through a high ankle sprain before it is fully healed usually just ends up in hurting it more, and it lingers for a lot longer than it has to.
Every situation I've ever seen when somebody tried to come back too early, it lasted the entire season. And it doesn't matter how athletic you are. It doesn't matter how tough you are. This isn't one of those injuries where you can just be tougher. So look, you can have injuries. You can have a torn labrum and you can play through it. You can have plantar fasciitis and you can play through it. You can have turf toe and play through it. When you start talking about knees and ankles, that's when it becomes difficult, because you have a dead leg, basically. It's like you have a wooden leg. There's nothing you can do because you're going to favor it, and then you're going to start running differently, and you're going to mess up your back. You're going to get offline, and all those things come with when you try to play through something like this. And we talked about it yesterday. It was going to be difficult. Now, there's different cases, and obviously Dr. Attridge is going to hop on. We can ask him this question about ankle sprains. I don't know if probably going to give a little bit better opinion than we can about the severity of how these play out, and that's why we love having that resource from Brock. But I'd rather him sit out. I'd rather him sit out, get healthy. You're a team that's going to be there in the end. Yes, even without Michael Thomas, you can, for 4 weeks, if you have to, find a way to win ball games. You're that talented, in my opinion. The defense doesn't get enough credit for who they can be, who they will be this year. Are you going to have have someone step up? Yeah, absolutely. We've been asking for somebody else to step up at receiver for years now. You got to have it. You've got Emmanuel Sanders. He's been on number one in his career. Is he a number one at this point in his career? Probably not. But for 4 games, can he be? Sure.
And 4 games is what I wanted to talk about, because if they held him out for the next 4 games, you get a bye week after week 5. They are favored in Las Vegas this week. They will be favored at home against Green Bay. They will be favored in Detroit. They will be favored at home against your Chargers. If they held him out, they're going to
be probably like more than a touchdown.
So you're going to be a favorite in all 4 of those games. It's kind of like what we did with Drew Brees last year. He was going to be out. We thought 6 games. It was, hey, can you get to 3-3, 4-2? He ended up missing 5 games. They won them all. If you sat him out until the Carolina game on October 25th, that would be 42 days in between when he got the injury and when he went back out on the field for a game. So let's say somewhere between 35 and 40 days for a return to practice. Let's give him some practice in there. Let's say 37 or 38 days. Is that enough time for a high ankle sprain to fully heal?
I think it is. I think if you're doing things the right way, he's a young guy. I think he's going to heal faster.
But you got to get off of it.
But you got to get off of it. Don't try to be a Tommy Tough guy. Don't try to go out there and practice, which I can appreciate his toughness. That's one of the things that I think makes him so great, is he is so tough and he's not going to be denied. And we've got Inside the Value Forward chat asking about tightrope and that procedure. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. It's different in college, and probably doesn't sound great, but in college, you lose a game, you're pretty much done. Now, if you lose 2 games, unless you're 07, you're done.
Right.
So you try to rush those guys back as soon as you can. In the NFL, you do have a luxury of having some extra time. If you're 9-7, you can still get in the postseason and win a Super Bowl. We've seen that before. And so that's why you don't see the tightrope procedure as much in the NFL, because you have extra weeks to go ahead and get your body ready.
There's not a sense of urgency to get him back for the Lions game.
Right.
And there wouldn't be, and I don't mean that because it's the Lions, there wouldn't be a sense of urgency to get him back in 2 weeks if they were playing the Chiefs, which they do later this year, or if they were playing Tampa again, which they are later this year, or if it was any other division game. It's just the nature of the schedule in itself that you have 16 games to play with. So they managed to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by double digits in a game in which Michael Thomas caught 3 passes for 17 yards. The defensive game plan against him was one that was very solid. They executed it well, and the Saints were able to win the game anyway. They still put up right at 300 yards of total offense. They still scored 34 points. Yeah, the special teams were spectacular, but you're going to have to remember the game in Seattle last year when Bridgewater had to start. I think it was his first start. And like, man, look, we're going to need everybody to step up. And what happened? They had a punt return for a touchdown. They had a defensive touchdown, and they wanted a very, very difficult place to play. They're going to have a little bit of that. But when you look at that offense, if Thomas doesn't play, how much different does it look?
It's completely different. And we should say they did find a way to win last week with him not being that effective in the game. And so you see that just last week. So that's encouraging. But it does look different. I mean, you're talking about, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, the best receiver in all of football. So, again, just like the Jamar Chase situation, I can't come on here and be good at my job and say it's not going to affect them. It's going to affect them. Who can step up and give you enough to get you wins in his absence? That's what the question is going to be. What do you do from an offensive play call situation? How much more does Taysom Hill get involved? What do you do with Alvin Kamara? Could we see Kamara and Murray on the field at the same time to give Kamara some chances to motion to the slot? You have to get creative. And if I'm a Saints fan, I have one of the top 5 most creative minds in the history of football in Sean Payton. I feel comfortable in him for 4 weeks scheming something up. We just saw Teddy Two Gloves, like you mentioned, win 5 games, parlay that into a big contract when you didn't have Drew Brees. We wanted them to go 3-3. They win all the games, right? So I think all those things being said, you have to have a guy still step up, but I think that Sean Payton will put them in the best situation to do so.
When you think the word creativity in the New Orleans Saints offense, the first thing you think of is Taysom Hill. But I was thinking about another name this morning when we found out that Thomas was going to be out for longer last night, actually, and that's Deontay Harris. Harris had 2 touches in the game on Sunday.
He looked fast.
Yes.
Looked like everybody else was standing still.
Yes, exactly. I kind of felt like, you remember when Michael Lewis first got with the Saints and every time he touched the ball, it's like, whoa, man, that guy can run. That's kind of how I feel about Harris. And Lewis never became a big part of the offense, but I'm not sure Harris has the same limitations. I think that finding creative ways to get him the ball, and we're not talking about him going out there and catching 12 passes the way Michael Thomas might in a given weekend.
Right.
I'm talking about 3 to 6 plays where 2 or 3 of them might be explosive. He touched the ball twice. He had a 9-yard carry. He had a 17-yard catch. And like you said, he can scoot, man. So
there's options on this team. That's why you set it up like you did, to be creative. They have playmakers across the board. You know, that's why you drafted Tommy Stevens. I know he's on the practice squad, but I'm just saying that's why you draft a guy, because you believe in your ability to become creative. And if something happens, I can find a way to put my football team in the best case scenario. So not ideal. Not ideal at all. It's worse than we thought. Understand all of that, okay? Tre'Quan Smith, it's time for you to step up. We've said that too many times. Now this is the true time. No longer can Taysom Hill go out there and have more yards than you in a year, in a game. That happens too often, right? You've got to be a guy that can at least be a number 2 receiver during this absence of Michael Thomas. Can we all agree to that? He's got to. He has got to be a guy. You're drafted in the 3rd round to be a contributor. You're not asked to be a special teams guy, which he doesn't really do. You're asked to be a guy that is a starter. You might not be a starter for 10 years. Now, there's a lot of 3rd rounders that have done that. But I know. I was drafted in the 3rd round. I got told my expectations the day I walked in the building. This is what we want from you. They have to have that from him this year. He's too old not to give them help.
Where's your book?
My blue book's still in my backpack.
Okay. Take it out during the break. Tre'Quan Smith has 1 catch for 4 yards in the 1 game.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next 4 games, whether Michael Thomas plays or not, I'm going to give him 10 catches for another 90 yards, 80 yards.
I can write it down.
Over 4 games.
10 for 90.
Over 4 games.
4 games.
In other words, I'm not expecting much.
Hey, I'm doing the math in my head. You know.
No, that
looked great.
And just keep that number down.
All right.
Unfortunately, I think that's what you can expect from him at this point. I'm not sure that.
So who becomes, and I'm not talking about the things we've talked about. We know Cook, we know Kamara, we know Taysom Hill. Again, love the weapons, love the versatility that you have. But from that room, who becomes the next target?
Sanders has to become the number 1 target, and there has to be somebody that picks up another, like I said, 3 to 6 catch. That becomes like last year's Ted Ginn, who caught about 4 balls a game. And I think that can be Deontay Harris. That's my pick. And it doesn't have to be. I'm not talking about trying to take the top off the defense. Breeze doesn't have the arm for it anymore. I'm talking about things like the jet sweep. I'm talking about things where you get him the ball in the screen game. They're as good at the screen game as anybody. Find 3 to 6 ways that you can get him the ball. He touched it 2. Double that next week. Get him 2 more. Okay, teach him one play, Jimbo, and figure out a way that you can use that speed. That's my solution. If Tre'Quan Smith steps up, I'll be the first person to eat my words, but I'm gonna have to see it first.
Oh, I hope. See, that's
hope. Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the things you'll learn about our show. Sometimes we'll hope we're wrong, and we'll admit when we're wrong.
Yeah.
Like if we're wrong, I'll be like, "Thank God I was wrong."
That's why I tell you, write it down. I got 10 for 90 over the next 4 games.